Corporate media giant CBS News is getting a lot of pushback for hiring a former Trump staffer, Mick Mulvaney, and bringing him on as an analyst. So now Mick Mulvaney, of course, had led the Office of Management and Budget and served as Trump's acting chief of staff. So, pretty high up position, very important, not a coffee boy or anything like that. And so, look, he served in the Trump administration, and big surprise, he lied. In fact, he's a serial liar, and he lied all the time for Donald Trump. And so let me share just some of these lies. Back in 2017, he accused the Obama administration of essentially cooking the books on jobs numbers. Turns out to be false. We're just saying that they have a lower, they claimed that they had a lower unemployment rate, but really, they didn't. Yeah, no, they actually did have a lower unemployment rate. And of course, look, when it comes to the jobs numbers, every administration uses this trick. So they basically don't count certain people. People that have been unemployed for longer than 6 months, people who are underemployed, things like that. And so, look, that's that situation. Nonetheless, even using that metric, which is usually very favorable to an administration, Mick Mulvaney still had to lie about the Obama administration. All right, but there's more. He also lied about crime on the U.S.-Mexico border, claiming that in 2018 they had arrested a whopping 17,000 criminals. Criminal aliens, they say. In fact, it turns out way less, about 10,000 less, a total of 6,259 immigrants with criminal convictions were encountered by Border Patrol. In fact, many of them were not violent criminals, because you think, oh, the criminal aliens, right? They must be violent. There must be something wrong here. No. Actually, they were only charged with illegal entry into the United States. So nonviolent, basically trespassing. Oh, wow. Mulvaney also fudged the numbers on Trump's budget, said one of his budgets would balance the budget. Wasn't true at all. In fact, Trump increased the debt by a lot with his tax cuts for the rich. And of course, Mulvaney then lied about the quid pro quo when it comes to Ukraine, the administration trying to withhold Ukraine military aid for that country in exchange for making a public declaration that they were doing an investigation into Joe Biden during an election. And so that's just some of the ridiculous lies that Mick Mulvaney had told on behalf of the Trump administration. And now I want to show you the warm welcome that CBS is giving them. And then he's going to go and do what he always does, say things that are false.
So here to discuss is Mick Mulvaney. He's a former Office of Management and Budget Director. And today I am pleased to welcome him as a CBS News contributor. So happy to have you here. Thank you so much. You're the guy to ask about this. So we learned yesterday that some of the plan is, the proposal is to tax some of the richest Americans in this country in a way that they have not been taxed before. Can you sort of explain the proposal for us and how it would work?
Yeah, really simple. Keep in mind that the proposal is just that. There won't be a lot of details to it because this is a budget document. But the rough idea is this, is that somehow the government will identify households that are worth more than $100 million, and that somehow those folks will be taxed so that they pay at least 20% tax. It's unclear if that's tax on income or wealth. It really is a very different way of measuring wealth in this country, Emery. We've never taxed wealth before. We've taxed income. In fact, the Constitution might not even allow a property tax. It does specifically allow an income tax. But that's the basic framework. We'll find out how much money you've got on things like unrealized stock gains, businesses that you might own. And even though you didn't make money off of that last year, we're still going to tax you on it. That's the basis of the proposal.
All right, so the first thing I want to address before I get into the details of what he's talking about, because I think that's relevant, because it really shows what role they're giving him at CBS News. And I think that's relevant to the hiring decision. But let me just say that it was super, super gross to see that anchor have to debase herself by saying, "Oh, we're so happy for you to be here. We just love you, Mulvaney. Oh, I just love you. Thank you so much. Welcome, welcome, welcome." Shut up. Gross. Disgusting. Now, that said, let's get to the details, right? They bring on Mick Mulvaney to cry about rich people getting taxed. That's what it is. Now, look, Biden's modest proposal, and I actually think that it's a positive thing. Yes, we're going to tax the rich a little bit more. It would include a minimum rate for all Americans with a wealth of more than $100 million. If enacted, the minimum rate would be about 20% of this group's total annual income. So it is essentially a wealth tax. Now, look, it's a wealth tax on unrealized gains, which would be fantastic. Now, look, let's not get into whether or not this will actually get through Congress. I think very unlikely, but nonetheless, Biden is touting this like, hey, this is what I want to do with our budget. All right. So now, again, the tax would be on unrealized gains, unsold stocks and bonds. Now, look, the reason that they're taxing that is to prevent rich people from hiding their wealth in unrealized assets. That has been a problem for a long time. What we've seen is a shift away from income, compensation in the form of a paycheck, in the form of an income, which is taxed at currently 21%. The Biden administration plan would bring it up to 28. I think it needs to be much higher. I mean, it's high. 28% would be still lower than the Obama administration. Nonetheless, right? All right. But you've seen that shift away, okay? And so now a lot of executives who don't need a paycheck, who don't need an income to survive because they're already super wealthy, they get their wealth mainly through dividends or, of course, money from sold assets, which are taxed at a lower rate currently than traditional income. That's why rich people actually end up paying less of the percentage, in taxes than we do. In fact, we pay a lot more of our income as a percent to the federal government in taxes than rich people. In fact, I've got some devastating numbers on that one. But first, look, rich people, that money in those unrealized assets sits there untaxed. And they just hold on to it. Look, and again, they don't sell because they don't really need to sell. They're already rich. They can also have access to very, very low interest loans that we do not have access to, or, as I mentioned, live off dividends, which are taxed at a lower rate. That's how they pay less. That's how they pay less. In fact, let me give you an example of how little they pay. Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett's an investor. He's at Berkshire Hathaway. And according to Forbes, between 2014 and 2018, he made about $24.3 billion. Over those years, Buffett paid about $23.7 million in taxes. His tax rate at that time, between those years, is 0.1%. 0.1% tax rate. Jesus Christ. That's about 10 cents for every $100 he added to his wealth. Jeff Bezos, formerly the CEO of Amazon, paid a 1.1% tax rate on his billions of dollars within that same time period. And so look, and by the way, Amazon itself paid almost nothing in federal taxes for several years. And so that's how little the extremely wealthy in this country pay in taxes. And a lot of it is thanks to these unrealized gains. If you go after these unrealized gains, and you actually tax them at 20%, even 20%, that's gonna lead to billions of dollars in revenue. That's good. That's good. So now there is no reason, absolutely no reason, poor people should be paying more of a percentage of their income than the richest people on the planet. It's an absolute disaster. It's disgusting. But understand, this is who Mick Mulvaney represents. Rich people. And by the way, that is exactly why CBS News hired him. They thought, no, here's a guy who will shamelessly lie to the American public, because we've seen him, we watch him in real time, lie to the American people, and he'll do anything he can to protect corporate rule. Remember, he's the one who also lied about the gains of Donald Trump's tax cuts. And so, look, he lied on behalf of the most corrupt administration in recent history. Hell yeah, let's get him on. Yeah, hire him. Yes, let's do it. Now, the pushback for CBS was absolutely swift. Matt Negrin, host of Hardball, taking over for Chris Matthews, actually had a big problem with this. Here's one tweet in a thread, quote, CBS News did not mention a single time in the segment this morning that Mulvaney worked for Trump, lied about the Ukraine quid pro quo, or anything he did as a liar for Trump. CBS News is legitimately lying to the public to rehabilitate the image of a Trump official. True. Tim Fullerton says, and now to give us a totally not slanted rundown of President Biden's tax plan is known liar, tax fraud, and former OMB and chief of staff to former President Trump, Mick Mulvaney. Notice how she didn't say any of that. Interesting. Lachlan Markey says, just a reminder, as he downplayed COVID publicly and portrayed mitigation measures as a scheme to damage Donald Trump, Mick Mulvaney was liquidated as much as $550,000 in stock holding. Remember, that is taxed at a smaller percentage than normal income that you and I would make. Yeah. He made all that money and paid very, very little taxes on it. Nicole Sandler points out Mick Mulvaney is now a CBS News commentator. What the actual fuck? I think we can all agree with that one. Jordan Zakarin, in a couple of tweets, said this: looking forward to CBS News inviting Ginny Thomas to break down the 1/6 committee findings. And then added, Mick Mulvaney wasn't just a key player in the corrupt Trump administration. He was one of the most extreme anti-tax, anti-government spending Republicans in D.C. He exists to stop taxes on billionaires. And then added, and I love this line, it's like inviting Greg Abbott on to analyze power grids and trans rights. God damn. 100%. So look, shameful for CBS. Once again, proving that they're not really an actual news organization, but just a spokesperson, a front for giant multinational corporations in order to push their agenda.